It all started when we blew out the candles. My twin brother and I grew up in a small town in Arizona. When we were 4 years old, our family moved to a new neighborhood. It was there that we met Danny. He was a strange kid who would prance up and down the street wearing a princess dress and pirate hat. Of course, being us, my brother, Michael, and I, Lily, we had to make friends of him. Neither one of us ever regretted it. Danny was a great friend to have. He always loved ghost stories and fairy tales. As we grew older, he became more interested in urban legends, conspiracy theories, and the occult. Michael and I just assumed it was a simple hobby, and we weren't worried about it. We should have been. Things were fun throughout high school. The three of us would occasionally sneak into a cemetery or an abandoned building. We were never caught, and we didn't find any ghosts, so there seemed to be no harm. That was until our 18th birthday. Michael and I blew out the candles on a cheap, store-bought cake. Our parents were out of town, and Danny had come over so we wouldn't celebrate alone. After he sung the birthday song ear-splittingly off-key, he started on one of his rants about the paranormal. This time, he was talking about some disappearances from the next town over. Apparently, about 3 people vanished in the course of a month, all men, and they disappeared from the woods near Ravenside Memorial Park. Danny wouldn't shut up about it. He kept begging us to go there with him before our parents got back. Eventually, we agreed. After all, it was just a normal ghost adventure, right? Nothing ever really happens on those. That's what we thought, but we were so wrong. Now it's too late to change our minds. Too late to fix anything. Danny and Michael they're dead. But I'm going to be next. Let me explain. We went to those woods the next day. When we pulled up, the woods were beautiful with their autumn colors. But when we entered, the 3 of us got hit with the sudden feeling of dread. It started off as a general sense of uneasiness, but the longer we were in the woods, the deeper in we went, the worse it got. After an hour, we were all terrified. What's worse is that when Michael and I finally talked Danny into leaving with us, we discovered we were lost. Now the woods are small, not even a square mile large. Yet, we spent the next 3 hours trying to find our way out. It was starting to get dark. The sun began to set. The feeling of dread got worse for all of us, and we decided to call 911. However, when we tried our cell phones, there was no signal whatsoever. We were in the middle of the town. There should have been full bars. But nothing. We were stuck. No help, no way out, and the sun had set. That's when it happened. I couldn't hear it, but Michael and Danny could. They said someone was humming. A woman. They described her voice as one of the most beautiful sounds they had ever heard. Like an angel was singing to them. I tried to listen, but I still couldn't hear it. Michael suggested trying to find the woman humming because she may show us the way out. Danny and I agreed. Looking back, it was a strange notion, but we were desperate. We were scared. So we got stupid. We followed the sound through the dark woods. According to Michael and Danny, it would disappear and come back and repeat the cycle. 20 more minutes passed of us looking, wandering helplessly through the darkness. Then, we came upon something strange. There was a creek. We had been through that area 3 times, but now, where there had been only trees and thorns, was a small, rushing creek. It was beautiful, even at night. The faint moonlight glimmered and shone off the water. Silver clouds above framed it perfectly. The place was entranced with a feeling of serenity. The sense of dread was gone. The three of us felt relaxed. We felt safe. Even though we were still lost, we felt as though we were free. It's hard to explain. I have no idea how long we spent just looking at the beautiful scene before Danny noticed her. A woman. She had long, silvery blonde hair, a white dress with a torn hem, pale skin, bare feet, freckles, pink lips, and eyes the color of the ocean. She was gorgeous. She saw us and silently gave the most welcoming and kind smile I had ever seen while waving a quiet hello. Danny ran over to her. He greeted her happily. He began to explain our situation and asked for a way out of the woods. The woman simply stared at him without making a sound. He asked her if she was okay. She smiled and nodded. He asked if she could help us out of the woods. That was a mistake. The woman's smile turned sinister. Her gaze became wicked. She shot her arm out and clutched her hand around Danny's throat. He caught at her hand and gasped for air, but it was no use. I felt myself beginning to panic. I looked to Michael. His face showed nothing but horror, and his expression turned to anger. He yelled at the woman. He shouted for her to let Danny go. She stared at Michael with her twisted face, then did as he asked. The woman dropped Danny to the ground and stepped back. For a moment, I wondered if it was over. She did what my brother asked, and released Danny. He fell to the ground, away from her clutches, but he was still choking. He kept coughing and hacking. He retched and heaved and then puked up a mouthful of water. He continued to cough up more and more water as he writhed on the ground. The woman smirked at us as he did this at her feet. Then he stopped. The woman looked down at his unmoving form, which held a face still contorted in pain, and the eyes that were unblinking and wide of fear. I'll never forget that face. He was frozen like that, and we didn't even have to check to know he was dead. The woman shifted her gaze back to us, and she smiled that awful smile again. I felt fear and dread shoot through me. "Go," Michael whispered. His voice was hoarse, as though he couldn't find it. I remained still. Michael yelled, "Go!" And he turned and began to run, grabbing my arm and pulling me with him. I ran absent-mindedly, still trying to understand the situation, until I reached the inevitable conclusion that the time for understanding came later. This was the time for escaping. Michael and I ran, with him trailing just behind me, for as long as we could without slowing down. When we finally began to run out of steam, we saw it. The end of the woods. A way out. We both got a second wind, summoning all of our energy, and booked it towards the exit. I burst out of those wretched woods, desperately trying to catch my breath. I turned back to my brother, who was still standing inside the tree line. I asked him why he wasn't coming out of the woods. That's when I realized his face looked sickly, like he was about to vomit. I watched as he spat out a mouthful of water before falling to the ground and writhing and clawing at his neck in a futile attempt for air. I knelt down beside him and tried to help, but it was no use. I couldn't do anything. My brother died in my arms. I wanted to scream, I wanted to cry. Before I could do anything, I saw something out of the corner of my eye. I looked up, and several yards away, in the woods, were a pair of glowing eyes the color of the ocean. I couldn't leave Michael behind, but there was no helping him. If I stayed, His efforts to get me out alive would have been for nothing. I hightailed it to the car and drove away as fast as I could, going at least 10 miles over the speed limit until I was all the way home. I called the cop. They said I was crazy. My parents will be home tomorrow, but I have no idea how I'm going to explain this to them. I need help. I searched the web for answers, but all I found was a story about a siren. It states that there are beautiful mermaids that sing songs only men can hear, and that they are responsible for luring sailors to rocks so they'll crash their ships and die. I found 3 versions of a story that says one siren, for 3 different reasons, wound up getting cursed with human legs and banned from the ocean forever. Every version of this story says that she still exists, luring men to her, or she kills them. Here's the part that makes me believe it's her. Each version states that she has a power like no other siren. She can fill a human's lungs with water, effectively drowning them, with only a single touch. A split second of skin-to-skin contact is all it takes. That's what happened to Danny, and I think it's what also happened to Michael. I'm scared. I want to doze off and wake up to realize this is all some sort of nightmare, but I'm too scared to sleep. Even if I could, I know this is real. I know my brother and friend are dead. I know that they were killed in front of my eyes, and I couldn't help them. I know I watched them take their last agonizing breaths as they choked to death on the same substance that we, humans, would die without, and that's so twisted. I know this, but I still can't seem to wrap my head around it. What am I going to... What's that? Oh no. Someone help me! Please!